Hey guys, Nick here from Everything Electronic. Today, I hopefully want to help you get ROS set up and installed in part 1 of this tutorial. So, first of all, I just want to say thanks for all your nice comments, and they are super awesome and really help me to stay motivated. So, yeah. But let's get started with this multi-part tutorial on how to use ROS. So, starting off, let's talk about basics. First of all, you need to understand this is challenging and you really need to persevere, but you can succeed. You will spend some time Googling though. So here I hope to cover everything, but I can't cover, for instance, like when something doesn't work, because things change, and you're going to have to do some Googling to figure stuff out, but I'll do my best to cover everything. So for hardware, you need 2 computers. You need one to run ROS as the master computer, and you need another computer to run as the slave computer. Okay, so here I kind of made this little ROS station, but I have an old PC as my master computer. And on my robot, I have a Raspberry Pi computer, which is going to run ROS as the slave device. Now, both of these devices should run Ubuntu version 18.04. Now, the Raspberry Pi runs Ubuntu Mate, which is a version made for Raspberry Pi. Okay, so basically, now we just have to install Ubuntu on both machines, ROS on both machines, and get them set up so that they talk to each other. And that is going to be the goal of this tutorial for today. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so we need to install Ubuntu on both computers. Installing Ubuntu on the master computer is pretty straightforward, and you can find plenty of tutorials if you need help. Make sure to install the correct version of Ubuntu that we're using, which is 18.04. For the Raspberry Pi, it is a pretty similar process, but you need to install Ubuntu Mate, which is a version made for Raspberry Pis. I had some trouble finding the download for this, so here's how I found it. Also, if you need links for anything, including where I did download Ubuntu Mate, it is in the description. So where I found Ubuntu Mate for our Pi was I clicked on Download and Ubuntu Desktop. That takes us to this page. You click See Our Alternative Downloads, which takes us to here. We can scroll down and come to Past Releases, part of Past Releases and Other Flavors, which takes us to this page. Here, we want to click on Ubuntu Mate. This takes us to this list. Now, I believe you want to use 18.04.5, but you might also just want to use 18.04. So click on that, then click on Release. That will take you to this page, and you want to scroll down here and select this file to upload to your Raspberry Pi. This should work. Okay, so now you should have both your machines running Ubuntu set up and connected to the internet. Now we have to install ROS on both machines, so do these steps twice, once on each machine. So first, navigate to ROS installation. We need to install the ROS program on both machines. Here we are using ROS Melodic. This is the version. So click on that, and then select your platform. We are using Ubuntu. Now go through this page and run all the different commands to install ROS on your computer. I am using the desktop full version. When you get down to this section, make sure you run this command because every time you use ROS, you have to initialize it for your terminal window. By running these 2 commands, it is going to automatically do that for you. Once you get to here and finish, you're done. Now we need to move on to ROS tutorials. So now with ROS tutorials, I know you just want to follow some simple steps to get this running, but ROS is not quite that simple. It is going to take a lot of time and reading. So if you have patience and perseverance, you will get your robot running with ROS. Now, I would recommend going through as many of these tutorials as you can stand. Specifically 1 through 4, I think, are the most important. This will set your system up and teach you some of the basic commands that will really help you when working on your robot. For some quick clarification, whenever they say distro, that means that it is the version of ROS you're using. In this case, we're using melodic. Also, we are using catkin, not ROS build. You should have completed some of these tutorials. Now let's set up both machines so that they talk to each other. Down here and click on running ROS on across multiple machines. And that should pull you to this page. First, we have to set up the network setup. So click on that link, which will take you to here. And now we have to make it so that each computer knows the name of the other. So ROS uses SSH, and normally, at least the way I use SSH, I tell it the IP address of the machine I want to connect to. ROS needs to know a name, so we have to set a name equal to an IP address. Now, I had to set these on both my machines, and I believe you should have to too. So basically, we need to set a name for each computer. So I used the machine name, of my machines. So if we switch over to my terminal, where I am connected to my ROS master computer, like you can see up here, this computer needs to know what the IP address of my slave computer is. So we need to edit the etc hosts file. So I'm going to do that here. Now, when we look at that, let me type in my password. Here we have the host file. You're going to need to add this line here. Now, what this line does is it tells it that this IP address is going to be equal to this name. So this is my slave device, and here my computer automatically sets my master device for itself. But what you need to do is do this on both your computers, edit your etc hosts file, and set the IP address equal to that machine, the other machine. So in this case, my master computer now knows that this is the IP address for my slave device. Once you're done, save that. And now, when you run ping that device, in my case, ping Nix Raspberry Pi or RPI, it should connect and give you data. If you need a little extra help, I found this website here, which I will leave the link in the description, pretty helpful. But back to here. Now run through all these tests, and this should make sure that you have a good connection to that from both machines to each other, so that they can both talk well. Next, come back to the multiple machines tutorial and go through all this stuff again. Okay, so now down here we have to tell ROS which computer is the master computer. So you run ROS core on the master computer. Before, hopefully you've done some of the examples in the ROS tutorials, and all those examples run on one computer. That's how you've done them. So you've never had to deal with this line of code here, because ROS automatically defaults to thinking that the ROS core is going to be running on its machine. But because we're running two machines, we have to specify. So what you're going to have to do is every time you open up a terminal window on your slave device, you're going to have to run export ROS master URI, and then replace, in this case, HAL, with the name that you set up for your master device. Now this tells your slave device that ROS core is going to run on the master, and where that master computer is what HAL would be. I hope that made sense. So now you should have your computers talking through ROS, and follow the rest of these tutorials, and it should help you. And now, hopefully, you should have gotten ROS connected through both machines and talking to each other. And now you are done the first big step of getting ROS working on your robot. Now, I'd encourage you to continue going through some ROS tutorials. Just do some research about ROS, and you'll start learning things about how it works and just little tricks. Like, for instance, one little trick I found is add this line to your .bashrc file. And that way it'll automatically, whenever you open up a terminal window in your computer, it will automatically set the master URI to your master computer. Just little tricks. This will help you to start learning ROS and getting comfortable with it, so that you will feel more fluent and basically able to work with it as you go through this tutorial that I am making. So let me just say I felt scared and things like that when I first learned ROS, just because it's such a big program. But if you really tackle it and like decide you're going to work on it and go through these, it's just you have to give up some time and go through this stuff, but this will really help you. And eventually you will get an awesome ROS robot. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. And yeah, I hope you're excited for the next tutorial. Thanks.